Good morning, boys and girls. It's Miss Ross with Thursday Morning Story Time, and I hope everybody's doing well. We have coming up soon another holiday, and it's called Thanksgiving. And I think we have at least 3 Thursdays before Thanksgiving. So what I decided to do with Story Time is do all of those 3 Thursdays on Thanksgiving books, Thanksgiving stories, and I think you will certainly enjoy every one of them. The one I'm going to do with you today is called Thanksgiving Is by Gail Gibbons, and I hope you will enjoy it as much as I have. Boys and girls, Thanksgiving Is by Gail Gibbons, and I think you will enjoy this book as much as I did when I read it. Oh, Thanksgiving is, and it tells all the way through it. It says Thanksgiving is, and it gives several things that we think about when we think about Thanksgiving. In the United States, Thanksgiving is celebrated on the 4th Thursday of November, the month of November. And I want you to remember that as we go through the story and when we finish it. Oh, now, Thanksgiving is the Pilgrims, and I'm going to tell you who the Pilgrims were. In September 1620, a group of 101 passengers sailed from Plymouth, England. Now that is all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to England. And they were in search of a new home. These men, women, and children were called pilgrims. And the reason they came to the United States is because they wanted freedom to worship God in their own way, which they hadn't been allowed to do where they were. So they crossed the Atlantic Ocean, on a small ship called the Mayflower. And you can see that the voyage or the trip was very difficult. Look at the storms they had to face. They sailed through many storms, and one passenger even died. And even a baby was born on the trip also. Oh, now, at last, after a long voyage, and a voyage is a trip, they came ashore at what is now Plymouth, Massachusetts. Now, let me tell you about Plymouth, Massachusetts. We live in the state of North Carolina, and we're considered being in the southern part of our country. Well, Massachusetts is up north. So the ship landed in Plymouth, and they got off the ship. Now, here's the ship. It's out here in the ocean, but the people in here had to come in small boats because the ship can't stop all the way up to the land because the water's too shallow. In other words, it's not deep enough. So boats would go out and bring the passengers in. And you see they're helping each other off of the small boat. And you see men and women, children, even a baby. And over here, the Pilgrims began to build homes. Winter came. It came with its cold winds. And the Pilgrims had little food to eat. And many of them died. You see they're building their homes, and they're even putting straw for a roof. How about that? Now, Thanksgiving is also Native Americans, and that's just another word for what we sometimes call Indians. 2 famous Indians who helped the settlers were Squanto and Massasoit. And as you go through school and learn about the first Thanksgiving, you will hear those 2 names a lot, Squanto and Massasoit. And the Indians came in and they helped the Pilgrims. See, they were used to this land. They were over here already, and the Pilgrims had not been. They came in new. So the Indians helped them with their crops and planting their crops, helped them with their homes. And here you see an Indian helping. I believe he's putting down a fish. Maybe they're fixing to help him cook some fish for a meal. So when spring finally arrived, the Pilgrims were grateful. That means they were thankful. Indians taught them how to grow the foods that they themselves ate. And also, they taught the Pilgrims how to be better hunters, to go out and hunt their own food. During the growing season on this page, the crops grew and grew. The fall harvest was plentiful. That means they had plenty when the crops got ready to be eaten or taken out of the farm, the growing place. They had plenty of food. The Pilgrims wanted to thank God for all of the food that they would have for the coming winter. And here you see pumpkins. There are carrots. There's some kind of beans or peas, corn, some sort of fruit. And they just had plenty of food, so they did not get hungry anymore. Thanksgiving is the first Thanksgiving. Now remember, the Pilgrims came over and the Indians were already here, but they made friends with each other. The Indians helped them for a whole year, and everything turned out so wonderfully well, and so they decided to have a big feast. There was a great feast, and they invited the Indians, and it was the Pilgrims' first Thanksgiving, and it was in the fall or the autumn of 1621. And do you know it lasted 3 days? I want you to see all the food they have gathered. Turkeys, they have gone out and gotten turkeys. That looks like even a deer. And there's something cooking over here in a pot over the fire. And look how the children, the Indians and the Pilgrim children, are playing so nicely together. Isn't that wonderful? Now, Thanksgiving is a holiday. I'm going to tell you about in the year of 1863. This was quite a while after the Pilgrims had come for the first time in 1620. President Abraham Lincoln decided to proclaim the last Thursday of November to be Thanksgiving Day. And this was the first Thanksgiving Day for the United States. Then, in 1939, they changed it. And another president called Franklin D. Roosevelt made a change and declared that Thanksgiving Day would be the fourth Thursday of November. And here is President Lincoln, and this is in Canada. Thanksgiving is celebrated on the second Monday of October. That's what the Canadians do now. But right now, we always celebrate Thanksgiving on the fourth Thursday. On this page, Thanksgiving has many symbols. There are Thanksgiving decorations, and you can look around here and see they're decorating the outside of the house with pumpkins and corn stalks and autumn leaves, and look, they're even putting a turkey on the door. In many ways, our Thanksgiving celebrations remind us of the Pilgrims' Thanksgiving. There are pumpkins, turkeys, fall leaves, and other symbols gathered together to look like harvest time. And some homes are even decorated. And I want you to think back for just a minute and notice between now and Thanksgiving, I want you to notice the homes that you see as you drive by different people's houses. A lot of them do have them decorated with all sorts of pretty fall decorations. Thanksgiving is family and friends. And on this page, family and friends come together to share good times. It's for loving and sharing. Now this looks like a family. And over here, oh, that looks like a mother and a father, maybe a grandfather back here. And here, oh, we have some more grandparents coming in over here. And this grandmother is bringing in a box. I believe she's bringing in some food to share, probably. And they're all so glad to see each other. And behind them is a sign that says Happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a Thanksgiving feast. Tables are filled with many of the same foods that the Pilgrims shared when they had the Indians to eat with them on the first Thanksgiving. You will see here, here's a turkey over here. That looks like cranberries, maybe mashed potatoes, maybe sweet potatoes, muffins, or might be even cornbread, and lots of good food. And I believe she's gathering them together. I bet she's going to have a blessing. I bet that's exactly what that mother is fixing to do. There is turkey, stuffing, cranberries, and let me tell you about stuffing. I think this is the stuffing that I'm pointing to right here. in the South where we live now, we call it dressing. I know your mothers, and I do, and I think most people do now, they call it dressing. There's turkey, stuffing, cranberries, sweet potatoes, beans, squash, cornbread, and other good things to eat. Boy, that looks good, doesn't it? I know when we have Thanksgiving at my house, my children always want a squash casserole. They love my squash casserole. Okay. And Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving desserts, too. Ooh, look at these good sweets over here. Pumpkin pie, mincemeat pie, bread pudding, baked apples, and all kinds of treats. Oh, they had those after they ate their meal. And then Thanksgiving is giving. And on this page, you see these children are holding up a Thanksgiving card. And I don't know if they're giving it. I believe they're giving it to the grandparent. And he's looking at it. And it's wishing him a happy Thanksgiving. And here's another one being held up. And it's got a turkey on it. Now, the two kids in the front of the picture have a plant, a beautiful plant. And that plant is called a chrysanthemum. But rather than use that big word all the time, we call them mums, M-U-M-S. It is a mum. And you can find them in beautiful colors of red and orange and yellow. And I've got 2 yellow ones on my front porch right now. And I see a lot of those around town, don't you? Sometimes people send Thanksgiving cards. They may give plants or flowers when they visit others. Now, I want you to notice, too, in most of these pictures, you'll see this little dog. And he's just looking on, and I know he's having a good time. He's smelling all those good odors of good food, and he can't wait till he can eat all the scraps. Aha. And Thanksgiving is also games after everybody eats and has a dessert and they rest for a little while, then they can play some games. And in this front top picture, you see some children and they are playing in a pile of leaves. They're jumping and having fun. And when I saw this picture, it reminded me so much of when my children, my John and my Jenna, were small and we would go to my mother and daddy's for Thanksgiving. They would rake up all the leaves in the backyard, and they would have the best time jumping in that pile of leaves, and they jump down and hide, you know. They just had the most fun jumping in a pile of leaves. Didn't even have a toy, but that was the toy and the fun in itself, wasn't it? Now, on this picture, you see the dad, and he's playing football with some of the children. He's throwing the football to them, and look, as the dog. He's watching on, isn't he? Now, in this last picture, families and friends may play outside, or they may go to a game. And we see this is a football game, and here are the stands with the people cheering over here. And you know that football is really in season now. Go Panthers! Go Panthers! Now, Thanksgiving can also be plays. Now, here you see the children, I think they're at school, giving a play. The class has done a play, and they're on the stage. Some of them are dressed like Indians, some of them are dressed like pilgrims. They have the fall scenery, the turkeys and the pumpkins and all. And then you see, down here, you see the parents and the grandparents. So there are plays about pilgrims and the Indians who helped them. Oh, take a minute to look at this big, beautiful picture. Now, what is this? Can you tell me what this is? This is a parade. So Thanksgiving is parades, isn't it? And there are floats and bands and big balloons. Here's a float. Now, and here's the band. Look at the big balloons. There's one of a teddy bear, and there's one of a pig. A clown. They're just having the most fun. Now, we don't have a Thanksgiving parade right here in our town, but in some big cities, they do have, a Thanksgiving parade. We'll always have a Christmas parade, usually. Now, Thanksgiving is sharing. And here the children are looking in a basket, and they're pulling out maybe things that they brought from their home to share. And they're going to give to their friends and share with them. It's also remembering others. And here you see them around the table again. They're gathering their food, and this little boy is holding out his hands, and this lady over here is handing him a plate. And you can see that they've got, some have desserts and some are just now eating their meal. But they are remembering others, aren't they? And that's what's so important. Thanksgiving is, and this is the last page, giving thanks for many blessings. And this is what you call a horn of plenty. And it has all sorts of things just tumbling out of it that we are thankful for, food, all sorts of things. You know, I think we have one of those in our church, right here, a horn of plenty. But now let me say again that Thanksgiving, the things I want you to remember, the Pilgrims came over here in 1620 from England, another country, because they were not allowed to worship or go to church as they wanted to. So they came over here and they landed in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and they found the Indians who were already here. And they became friends. And isn't that wonderful? So for a whole year, the Indians helped the Pilgrims. They helped them to grow crops. They helped them to build their houses. And the children played together. And so at the end of that year, the Pilgrims decided to have a Thanksgiving feast, a big meal. And they invited the Indians, and they had the most fun because everyone was thankful that they had made it through that first year. So this is why we give Thanksgiving. We have Thanksgiving because we need to be thankful for everything that we have, and especially to God.